You heard it from her. Size matters.
It does.
Hey, it's Andrew here at BTORange again. We're here in we're actually at the range today instead of our fancy photography studio over in the other office because this gun is so small that I thought it might get lost in the background and what have you. So what we have on the bench today is a Colt model 1908 vest pocket. Um, Little 25 auto. It's a John Browning design. Colt produced it from 1908 through 1948 with a couple of years off in World War II when they were doing other things. There was a little bit of a cleanup after World War II with parts on hand, but last production, last guns assembled was around 1948. This particular gun is 1920 by the serial number. So Colt ended up with the official name as a 1908 vest pocket, or the model N like November. So they had a similar gun. There's some confusion when people say Colt model 1908. There's another model 1908 from Colt, the 1908 Pocket Hammerless, which is a larger pattern gun in 380. Like the 1903 32 caliber Pocket Hammerless. It's the 380 version. It's the 1908. Those are the model M as in Mike. This is the N as in November. And it's very similar to the FN model 1906, which predates it by just a couple of years. Now remember, Browning had a pretty robust agreement with FN during this time period. They were making pistols under the Browning design. They were making the shotgun. They were making a rifle under Browning's design. So there was a lot of interaction between Browning and Fabrique Nationale in that first decade of the 1900s, and this is part of that. And then they licensed it to Colt, or Colt got the rights to produce it in the United States as a Colt model 1908 vest pocket. So it's a little 2-inch barrel gun at 25 ACP, 6.35 millimeter Browning, and he designed the cartridge also. The thought process is the rim, and it's actually some merit to it. The 22 long rifle cartridge, just the geometry of the cartridge, does not lend itself well to very small pocket pistols. The 25 auto, especially with rimfire ammunition of the time and the gun designs of the time, the 25 ACP turned out to be a far more reliable round for these small little hideout guns. Now, neither one of them is very powerful, and although there are more self-defense capable 25 auto rounds out today than there was in 1920 or even 1960 for that matter, still probably wouldn't be anyone's first choice as a self-defense round, but it does beat a sharp stick depending upon the quality of the stick involved, I guess. But it is, nonetheless, it is what it is, a good little pocket hideout gun of the time. Now, there are some features today on modern guns and modern downsized 32s and downsized 380s kind of rendered this entire genre of 25 auto obsolete. But I mean, there's still a cachet, there's still a little, I like them because it's steel, it's color case hardened steel, it's charcoal bluing, it's all that cool stuff that you just don't get nowadays. So 6-round magazine in this gun, so 6+1. So let's talk about some of the safety features of it, and we'll even show you how to take it apart. And then I think if we can scrabble up some 25 ACP ammo, we're going to take a few shots with it on the range since we're over here anyway, right? So the gun does have a grip safety right here. And we'll get some better camera angles and some still footage of this gun. So there is a grip safety in this gun right here. There's a thumb safety right here. And after about 1916, there's a magazine disconnect safety, so the gun won't fire unless there's a magazine in it. So let's go ahead and clear it before we start manipulating it anymore. So it's a heel type magazine release. So that's an original Colt magazine. It's marked Colt on the bottom. And you can see that it's got the two-tone finish, which is typical of Colt magazines of this era because the feed lips were hardened after the magazines were formed. So you get that two-tone appearance on the original Colt magazine. So let's go ahead and clear it the rest of the way out. And with the safety off, grip safety depressed, nothing, right? That's not discharging. But when you put the safety, or when you put the magazine in, you get you can actually, not a hammer in there. It's a sear holding back the firing pin. So unlike the other 1908, which has an internal hammer. So the magazine disconnect came about 1916. It was the invention of a designer or an engineer at Colt named George Tansley. And Colt was so proud of the safety features in this little bitty gun, that they really took it to a lot of marketing focused on that. And actually, for the first year after the magazine disconnect was incorporated, they actually put a green brochure about the safety features in the box with the gun. And those are rare if you can find them today as the complete set with the box. So, and then about in 1920, after about serial number 280,000, we start getting an additional patent date on the side of the slide, which references that Tansley device. So I didn't even look and see if that's on this gun. No, it is not. So this is serial number 262,000. So it's a little predating that slide marking. So the last patent date on this slide is 1910. So one thing I have noticed about this little gun, they sold, like I said, around 419,000-ish of these guns in their product line, or during the course of production. And what I have seen, and I've seen at least one at a gun show, and then probably the other one's probably an online site somewhere, but U.S. markings on this gun, and it didn't happen. Now there is some merit to the idea that the OSS, the precursor of CIA, procured some of these guns, or maybe some other aspects of military intelligence, or one of those agencies such as that procured some of these guns, but they certainly wouldn't have marked them U.S. property, because the whole idea was it was going to be covert. So why would you have a U.S. property marked gun if you were going to be, captured by some foreign entity? So there's no documentation of any U.S. marked 1908 vest pockets. So should you run into one in your travels, and someone's trying to sell you a $4,000 U.S. property model in November, it's fake, unless there's this overwhelming provenance that doesn't come from the guy that's selling it to you. So it has to be independent provenance, in my opinion, for that to be real. So what should the gun look like? None were hot blued. None. Zero. None. None were ever hot blued. They were all charcoal blue. Now, other finishes were, Colt called it a carbona blue, which is what this is, but they did make them in nickel. They did make plated guns for presentations. They did engrave them. There are engraved examples out there. And there are different grips available. Grips with a square top like this. There's a rounded top grip during production, and they were made of different materials. You can get the black hard rubber, which is this guy's. This is a standard grip. They did have a checkered walnut grip with the Colt medallion, the rampant Colt medallion. You see that a little bit later on, but it was also available with mother of pearls with the rampant Colt. It was also available with ivories. And when you start talking about ivories and pearls on this gun, a lot of that was added after. So if it's a super high condition gun and it's got those type of grips on it, you probably need to get a factory letter on the gun anyway, just because we're getting up into the value where a factory letter is helpful. And maybe that'll tell you what kind of grips it shipped from the factory with. It might not, but then again, it might. So it'd be worth doing for sure. The color case hardening on this gun is true color case hardening, and we see the grip safety, the thumb safety. So this grip safety is color case hardened. The trigger is color case hardened. This thumb safety lever is colored case art, and that's as it should be. And when we start looking at condition, remember the three things we always talk about: originality, scarcity, and condition. We've dealt with scarcity, right? The standard gun, not particularly scarce, almost 500,000 made, and there's quite a few still out there in production. But the higher the condition, the scarcer the gun, right? Because a lot of these guns were, some were put in sock drawers, guaranteed 100%, but a lot of them were carried around in pockets and back pockets and all type of stuff, and there was a lot of wear to them. So the guns in what I call gray gun condition, which there's no visible case coloring left, it's just all a uniform gray, those are fairly common. That's how you see them quite a bit. And it looks to me, and I looked again on various auction sites and closed auctions, closed sales of this model this morning, and they can be had in that $350 range for what I call a gray gun or a typical gun. And then as condition goes up, price goes up. So we see a gun in this condition with most of its original Carbona blue. And and we'll get some video or still pictures of this. But right back here behind these slide serrations is where the rampant Colt is roll marked into the slide. And I'm telling you from experience that is virtually impossible to polish and reblue and keep the detail on that horse. The arrows and the small details in that horse are really hard to do to make it look good in a refinish. And it's hard to get this exact coloration. Salt blue has a different look to it. It has a different depth to it. It looks almost liquid when this does not. And yes, it takes a bit of an experienced eye to be able to tell the difference at just looking at it as to whether it's the original bluing or not, guaranteed. But get an inexpensive 10-power jeweler's loop. You can get them off of eBay or Amazon. And if you're looking for this type of gun, then it's a good idea to keep that with you and just look at these markings under magnification to see if you could see any evidence of the gun being polished after the markings were put on. When the gun was made originally, they were polished first, markings stamped, and then blued. So there was Colt would not have come out of Colt had there been any run out of the markings or any problem with the markings and the crispness of the lettering and the numbers. So that is and the straightness of the edges of the slide, that they're not rolled over. So that's what to look for to see if it's reblued, because on this gun, that would kill the value. That would take a $700 gun, which is where I believe this gun should live, and make it a $300 gun just that quickly. So you have to be super careful about that. And color, the case color. So if you have what looks like high condition blue, but you don't have good vivid case colors on the gun, something ain't right. You shouldn't have one without the other. Okay, so that's a little bit of a soapbox, but it is what it is. Nickel, original nickel. Now, a lot of the nickel guns you see have been replated. A lot of them went through Jim Bob's bumper and chrome shop in the 50s and 60s and got chromed and chrome and gold. And it's just an affront to all things holy for that to happen, but it did. And those guns are just shooters only. They no longer have collector value, but you can tell immediately from how washed out the markings are that that's happened to them. So factory nickel guns add about 20-25% to over the blued guns at their factory. And then if you start talking about engraved pieces and boxed pieces and things like that, then the price goes up astronomically. A standard gun boxed with the stuff that came in the box, the original paperwork, easily a $1,200 set. And then engraved stuff, depending on who the engraver is, if it's period engraving or if it's contemporary engraving to the gun, or if it's later engraving, that can touch $3,000 pretty easily for a period engraved gun with provenance. That can easily get to that $3,000 mark. So super little guns, they're fun. They're not the most practical guns to shoot. They're not that easy to deal with. But let's go ahead and take this apart real quick and show you the insides. And then assuming I can get it back together, we'll take it out to the range. I've already taken it apart once and put it back together and it seemed to work. So we'll try it again. So we're going to clear it again. Going to pull the magazine out. There's that two-tone on the magazine. So we're going to pull the slide back, and there is a notch there, but sometimes the notch doesn't line up exactly right. You see the markings on these divots here, I guess, on the barrel, and it's going to give me trouble. Okay, so what I've done is I pulled the slide back and I've rotated that safety down to where the back of the safety engages this notch in the slide. And that should allow me to turn this, but it's not. So sometimes over the course of time, we get some wear in there. That's horrible. I just had this dude apart not 10 minutes ago. There it is. Okay. So right at about there, I was able to turn this barrel to where the lugs are visible here through the ejection port. And now we've got to watch out because this firing pin is disconnected to the sear right there. So we have the firing pin and its spring here, and then we have the recoil spring there. So one other thing I wanted to show you, we lost that. One other thing I wanted to show you is this barrel comes out here, out the bottom of the slide. We'll pick that up in a second. Perfect.
That's the only piece?
That's the only piece. So what I wanted to show you is the slides numbered to the frame. So right in here, and we'll get a still shot of that. The slide is numbered right there. So it's important, obviously, that they match. So that slide numbers into that. So other than that, it's really simple on the inside. The barrel's not numbered. The FN product is numbered. So these firing pins right there, those are being remade and they're available. These springs are being remade. Both the firing pin spring and the recoil spring are being remade. So if you're going to shoot it, I would suggest getting springs, new springs for it, just because it's not a locking action. It's a straight blowback action. So this spring is the one that keeps the gun from beating itself to death. So to put it back together, so we're going to drop the barrel in from there. It does not come out the front. A lot of people think it come out the front, and it does not. So you can see where the barrel comes to rotate. So we rotate that back into place. So we're going to go ahead and put the firing pin and its spring in place, and then this firing pin or this spring guide that launched out across the wilderness back in its spot. I'm going to put this in here. So we have all the springs set up, and now we're going to try to bring all this back together. Line it all up, and if the stars line up just right, we'll be able to turn that barrel back into position. One thing about John Browning, he made great guns, but he never met a complication he didn't appreciate. So what's causing us this problem here? That's what's causing us this problem. If the barrel comes out of its area where it's turned, then the gun won't go back together. All right, once you get it back in, I made that much harder than it was supposed to be. Once you get everything back in line, you can turn the barrel back in place to where the lugs line up with the lugs in the frame. Function check, thumb safety works, grip safety works, it all works. Yay. Anyway, yeah, I made that much harder than it's supposed to be, but it's been a minute since I've dealt with one of those. So we're going to find some 25 auto ammo, and then we're going to just take a couple of rounds out of it on the range and let Tara outshoot me yet again. We're here on one of our rifle ranges with Tara's joined us, and we're going to put some rounds through this 1920 Colt Model N 1908 vest pocket. So
little baby Colt.
Little baby Colt. 6 rounds of 25 auto. Don't let it get away from you.
All right, let's see what it can do. This thing is so tiny. Golly. I was gonna say. Oh, we didn't even have the magazine all the way in there. What am I doing wrong? Oh, I probably don't have the grip safety down all the way.
Yeah.
Let's try that again. God, this thing is so little. It's so hard to keep that grip safety down. Oh, I got that.
Yeah, there's no bolt hole open on that old guy.
Golly, there's no way that I could. That is so hard to manipulate.
All right, I'm gonna load up and see what I can do.
All right.
You notice that there's really no practical sights on this gun, right?
Right.
Ready?
Yep.
Okay. All right, 6 rounds of high performance Yogi 25 auto. Had the same problem you did. I didn't have the magazine all the way.
Your group was smaller than mine.
I was trying to not put them in the same area.
Yeah.
But not a super practical gun, but again, better than a sharp stick, depending on the stick quality.
Right.
What do you think?
I didn't like it at all. I did not like it at all. It's too small. My hands can't. I can't hold that grip safety down and just keep it. I would die if I had to use that in a self-defense situation.
You heard it from her. Size matters.
It does.
Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.